War does not always end with the final shot. Sometimes it ends with silence. In the final years of World War II, millions of soldiers wrote letters. Not reports, not orders. Letters. Words meant for mothers, wives, fathers, and children. These letters were written in trenches, in burning cities, in frozen forests, and on ships that would never return. Many of them were sealed, stamped, and carefully folded, but they never reached home. This is the story of those letters. On the Eastern Front in 1943, a young Soviet soldier named Ivan Petrov sat inside a shallow trench carved into frozen earth. His fingers were numb. His rifle leaned beside him, and artillery thundered somewhere beyond the horizon. In his pocket was a folded piece of paper, already worn from being opened and closed too many times. He had rewritten the letter 3 times, each version sounding too frightened, too honest, too final. He finally wrote what he thought his mother needed to hear. That he was warm, that he was safe, that the war would end soon. He did not mention the bodies frozen into the snow, or the screams that echoed at night. He signed his name slowly, imagining her reading it by candlelight. He handed the letter to a courier the next morning. Ivan died 2 days later. His letter was never delivered. Across the world, in the skies over Europe, an American bomber crew prepared for a mission over Germany. Sergeant Thomas Mueller, a radio operator, sat inside the aircraft and wrote a quick note to his wife on a small scrap of paper. He joked about the terrible coffee and promised to bring home souvenirs from Paris. He folded the paper and slipped it into his jacket, planning to mail it when they landed. The bomber was shot down before noon. Wreckage scattered across a forest. Thomas's body was never recovered. The letter burned with the plane, its words erased before they could be read. In Italy, a German soldier named Friedrich Keller wrote his final letter during a quiet night near Monte Cassino. He did not write about victory or honor. He wrote about his childhood, about walking through wheat fields with his father, about the sound of church bells on Sunday mornings. He apologized for leaving without saying goodbye. He sealed the envelope and kissed it before placing it in his pack. During the next day's battle, Friedrich was buried alive by artillery fire. When his body was recovered weeks later, the letter was still with him, soaked and unreadable. No one could make out the words anymore. Millions of letters followed the same fate. Some were lost in the chaos of retreat. Others were destroyed by bombs, fire, or water. Entire mail trucks vanished. Ships carrying sacks of letters were sunk. Post offices burned. Borders shifted. Governments collapsed. And addresses became meaningless. For families back home, the silence was unbearable. Mothers waited by windows long after the war ended. Wives checked mailboxes every morning, hoping for words that would explain why their husbands never returned. Children grew up without knowing what their father's last thoughts were. The letters existed, but somewhere between the battlefield and home, they disappeared. In Japan, soldiers were encouraged to write farewell letters before deployment. These letters were often written with calm acceptance, shaped by duty and tradition. Many were never mailed at all, kept by officers, or destroyed to prevent enemy intelligence from learning troop movements. Families received official notices of death, but never the personal words written in the final hours. In France, resistance fighters wrote notes meant to be delivered if I do not return. Some were hidden in walls, under floorboards, or sewn into clothing. After executions, German soldiers often burned everything the prisoners carried. Love letters, apologies, less confessions turned to ash without a witness. One letter, found decades later in a ruined farmhouse, was written by a British soldier just hours before D-Day. It spoke of fear, not glory. He wrote that he was afraid of drowning, afraid of dying unknown, afraid his name would fade. He asked whoever found the letter to tell his family he tried to be brave. No one knows who he was. The letter was unsigned. These letters mattered because they were honest. On the battlefield, soldiers lied to survive. In letters, they told the truth. They confessed fear, regret, love, and longing. They asked forgiveness. They imagined futures they would never see. When the war ended in 1945, celebrations filled the streets. But in quiet homes, the waiting continued. Governments declared peace. Families still waited for letters. Some arrived years later, delivered by mistake, discovered in warehouses, or found among personal belongings, returned after the war. Others never appeared at all. Their words remained trapped in time, unread and unfinished. Every undelivered letter represents a conversation that never happened, a goodbye never spoken, a truth never heard. And somewhere, in the ruins of war, countless final words still lie, hidden waiting for someone who will never come to read them. This is only the beginning, because in part 2, some of these letters will be found. And when they are finally read, the truth they reveal will be more painful than silence itself.